Imagine you go to the gas station and you find that gas prices have risen to over $5 a gallon. Not too long ago, this was a reality here in Texas. Gas prices are based on the price of oil, which are also based in part on supply and demand. In recent years, North American oil production has skyrocketed, including production from Canadian oil fields. With that in mind, the Obama administration needs to make a decision whether or not to authorize construction of the Keystone XL pipeline, which would transport oil from Canada to the Gulf Coast. According to a U.S. State Department fact sheet on the project, the extension would transport up to 830,000 additional barrels of oil per day from Canadian oil fields to the United States. The purpose of this speech is to inform my audience of the arguments both for and against the construction of the Keystone XL pipeline. I've conducted extensive research on this project in order to give an informed speech on the topic. I'll present arguments both for and against the construction, which include the need to ensure American energy security, the potential the project has for creating American jobs, the environmental concerns associated with the extraction process of the Canadian oil, and the increased risk of spills associated with the pipeline. Let's begin by looking at American energy security. In the United States, oil is always in demand. According to statistics from the U.S. Energy Administration, the United States consumed a total of 6.87 billion barrels of oil in 2011 and 7 billion barrels in 2010. For both years, this was about 22% of total world petroleum consumption. In the first half of 2013 alone, the United States has imported over 1.7 billion barrels of oil, with over half of this amount coming from countries that are either hostile to the United States or whose own internal instability renders their continued reliability as suppliers in question. My analysis of the statistics provided by the U.S. Energy Information Administration indicates that if the output from the Keystone XL pipeline was realized, it could reduce our imports from unreliable sources by as much as 32%. According to Nebraska Congressman Lee Terry, chairman of the House Energy and Commerce Committee, in his journal article, Keystone XL, the Pipeline to Energy Security, oil fulfilled about 36% of all of our energy needs in 2011. Clearly, oil is an integral part of the American economy, not to mention our culture, as it is essential for most forms of transportation as well as manufacturing. While development of alternative energy sources is important, the oil industry is not going away anytime soon, and creating a dedicated line to a reliable Canadian oil supply could decrease our dependence on unreliable sources that render our economy at risk. Which brings me to my next point. Just as Keystone has the potential to strengthen our energy security, it also has the potential to strengthen our economic security through job creation. With the unemployment rate hovering at around 7.3%, job creation continues to be a concern for most Americans. According to the American Petroleum Institute, approval of the project would generate nearly 85,000 American jobs by the year 2020. And a study by TransCanada, the company bidding to construct the Keystone pipeline, indicates that construction alone could account for an estimated 16,000 American jobs and generate a $20 billion economic impact. This may not appear significant on the surface, but in addition to the direct impact through pipeline construction and employment, local economies could expect an economic boost through the service industries and housing. In contrast to the arguments in favor of the pipeline are several equally important arguments against it, most significantly those affecting the environment. The process of extracting the Canadian oil itself raises a particular set of concerns. According to an article by Jana Palliser, Green Science editor of the Science Scope Journal, the Canadian tar sands, which are a combination of clay, sand, water, and bitumen, are under a region of boreal forests and wetlands which must be strip mined and melted down for extraction. This process would have a devastating impact on the local environment through deforestation and displacement of wildlife. Palliser further asserts in the same article that the extraction process requires up to 4 times more energy than conventional drilling and results in 3 times more greenhouse gas emissions. With concerns over the environmental impacts of global warming, this has to be taken into account. In addition to the concerns related to the oil extraction process itself, the transportation of the oil raises its own set of concerns. Any method of transporting oil poses its own set of risks, but the Keystone XL pipeline and the oil it is projected to transport has a particular set of risks that must be factored in. Jana Palliser in her article writes that tar sand oil, which is known as diluted bitumen, is more corrosive than crude oil and more difficult to clean up if it is spilled. And according to a U.S. State Department environmental impact analysis, the greatest concern of a spill would be the effects on groundwater and wetlands. With the Keystone XL pipeline projected to cross a large portion of the northern high plains and the Ogallala aquifer systems, this raises a set of concerns as if even a small spill could be devastating to the local environment and wildlife, as well as to the people who rely on these water systems for drinking and irrigation. The environmental and safety concerns associated with the Keystone XL pipeline need to be carefully weighed against the economic and security benefits that the pipeline presents, making the President's decision on this project very important. In conclusion, I have covered some of the arguments in favor of the Keystone XL pipeline, which include American energy security as well as the potential for jobs creation and the economic impact, as well as arguments against the project, including the environmental risks associated with the extraction process as well as the hazards of oil spills from the pipeline itself. I hope now that you have a better understanding of both sides of this controversial issue. When you fill up your car with gas, you probably don't think much about where the fuel came from, only that it's there and how much it costs. While Keystone XL presents us with an opportunity to provide a stable and secure supply of oil for many years to come, it also presents a set of environmental risks that cannot be ignored. The questions we need to ask ourselves is, do the risks associated with this project outweigh the benefits?